So, welcome to the podcast. So we're here recording our first episode today with Hemi Innes. So Hemi is a futsal player, originally from New Zealand, who's now based in Sydney. He was just recently to the Oceania Champions League, where they made it all the way to the final. Got a little bit unlucky. Had to come back without the trophy, but came back with lots of stories to tell. And so what we wanted to cover in today's episode is learn a bit about Hemi, about futsal in New Zealand, as well as the greater region. And hear those stories. And then I'm here with Shane Watson as my co-host today. Shane is president of Futsal Sydney and a big name in the local scene. So everybody knows who Shane is. And Shane is great at making conversation. So he'll be a great asset for us today from that perspective. So that's the setup. Welcome, guys, and thank you for your time. Thank you for joining this episode.
Cheers, mate.
So
nice
I think maybe just
cheers, my bro.
Maybe just to start us, Hemi, would love to sort of for you to introduce yourself a bit more fulsomely. There'll be people who listen to this who don't know futsal or don't know about New Zealand, might be from a different part of the world. So how would you sort of tell your story from when you started to where you are now?
Yeah, beautiful. Oh well, kia ora, guys. Thank you for having me on this platform. It's a real pleasure to share some cool stories with people like yourselves, who are very passionate about futsal. Yeah, so I guess my story goes from Christchurch, New Zealand. So it's the South Island, second island of two. We're a small nation. I reside with my family on the north side. The east side of Christchurch. So North New Brighton is where I originally come from. And yeah, I guess my journey into futsal came just after the earthquake, 2011 earthquake in Christchurch. What happened was there was no real football grounds to play on, and my dad was getting concerned because I was sort of going crazy in the backyard, dribbling from fence to fence. You can imagine my backyard is probably about half the size of a small court. If you drew a line down the middle through the halfway circle, so it was very tiny. It was almost like pretty much like street court vibe. So I had a local football club called Fremmy Bays, and they had a futsal team called the Quakers. So very original name after the earthquake that had just hit our city. And there was a fantastic coach there called Richard Bell. And he was my representative football coach for under 13 Canterbury's. And so Dad gave him a call and said, "Is anything our kids can do?" Because there's no fields open. So yeah, he got me in the futsal, and ever since I never looked back. 26 now. So yeah, that's 13 years of playing the sport. Yeah.
That's awesome. So it was a chance beginning, but then you stuck with it. You didn't switch to soccer as a lot of players do, hey?
Yeah, well, that's right. So I guess to the context to that story is, are we gonna Shane's back there? Oh yeah, cool. I guess context to the backstory of that was playing football at 3, or from the age of 3, and then transitioning more into futsal from the age of 11, and then I was playing both ever since up until recently. My preference would be futsal now. Football doesn't really tickle my fancies. There's a bit too much running around, less engagement. You're less touches on the ball. Statistics don't lie anymore. So yeah,
that's awesome. And how did you sort of, what happened then? How did you progress through the ranks? How does it work in New Zealand?
Yeah. So, great question. So from Sunday league competition, so futsal's played on a Sunday in Christchurch, usually because of the football on a Saturday. From Sunday we'd have youth competition, and it would happen in a place called Bishopdale at the local YMCA. and that was ran by Mainland Football, who's the federation within our region. And yeah, I guess just over time playing Sunday comp with my friends from the Fermi team, pretty much up until the opportunities throughout the year where you get to do sort of youth championship. So that progresses into the Canterbury representative group. So I guess how my journey went into those was I trialled for the under 14s, didn't get in because I was still very new, still very new. So just learning the sport. There were a lot of good players at my age, and it was particularly hard because I was a lot smaller than most for my age. So my skills were always great, but my physicality was sort of what was letting me down in terms of selection. And then, so it was a couple of years of being saying, being told no to selection for Canterbury teams. I just kept at it, kept playing. 1 year I got into a development team for the Canterbury sides at 16, under 16 development team. And then it wasn't until, under 14 development team with Richard Bell. And then it wasn't until I trialled the following year for the under 16s where I got picked up by a coach called Michael Livingston. Peter Livingston. That was his son, Peter. And it was a funny story because initially I wasn't selected for the under 16s, and the coach realized he sort of made a mistake and had selected another player over me, and so they had to later change the selection to bring me in. So I actually found that out only just a few years back through a good friend of mine, Rona Naika, who's the futsal development manager for New Zealand currently. It wasn't until really hit the scene on when I was under 16s, and then the following year I trialled for the under 19s. Coach was Ronan, and I was selected for that. I was still relatively small. I was only just growing into my frame. So we're talking around 17 to 18 years old. I'm now 26. Trialled again the following year. Wasn't selected for under 19s, which was a surprise to me. But it was a very pivotal year because I decided to sort of roll my sleeves up, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to give a crack at going for the men's team, the Canterbury Dragons. I'd faced adversity a lot in my career, and I thought this is just another test. Not get selected for under 19s, but have a go at the men's team. And I was selected by the coach Rona Naika again, which was so cool. And that was sort of my journey into senior futsal. Along that pathway, I had been playing futsal at school level. So it wasn't until I got to high school, Shirley Boys High School, when I started playing a lot of futsal. So we were lucky we had like a turf, AstroTurf, just being built, a hockey AstroTurf, just as I joined the school. Initially it was concrete, so we were all ruining our school shoes on the concrete, which is so cool, when you think back to those memories. We just had school teams. School team would compete in a Wednesday competition at a local school gym. And then, futsal really just set off from there, especially at Shirley Boys. And I did that for 5 years, from year 9 all the way to year 13. We attended school nationals, sort of improved our ranking every year. But as you can imagine, futsal was relatively new to schools back then, so it was more so football guys and girls. But a lot of football boys who hadn't played a lot of futsal until they got to high school. So it was unreal. We even had an inter-school futsal competition, where I'm fortunate to say that my house, the Snell house, the yellow house, would do really well, and we'd tend to win it most years. So I guess that's my story into the futsal from a youth age and school age. Yeah,
that's awesome. And that was a lot of adversity, not being selected, and good on you for just, keeping with it and eventually making it. That's awesome.
Oh, thank you.
I'm kind of interested in this whole school topic because it's not something that I've been sort of hearing about here in Australia. So we have a son and he's in school. He's in year 5 now. But our school never talks about futsal competitions. So I'm wondering if it's a New Zealand thing or if you can tell us a bit more about how it works there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, like you mentioned before, not as popular in Australia, which I find fascinating given your population's, 4 or 5 times the size of our countries. Um, yeah, for school, I guess, yeah, ever since I came along, if I was to put a year on it, 2013, I think the year before 2012, futsal was only just starting in schools. I believe the reason why it's so popular these days is a lot of schools and school gyms have, or a lot of schools have access to a school gym, but also like AstroTurf. So successive governments over the years have put in turfs in schools to make it safer playing surface rather than bark or concrete. That's traditionally, been the case. And I think organically that's just kind of molded into kids, playing a lot of futsal, playing a lot of basketball. I mentioned to you earlier the weather. Weather's not the best, particularly where I'm from in Christchurch. During the winter, gets really wet. So there's a preference to play inside sport. And so ever since 2012-13, futsal's been in high schools. Nowadays it's in primary schools. So
Wow.
kids are very familiar with it. I'm not sure if there is a specific primary school competition in Canterbury. We do have futsal for primary kids, but I think it's just more like they all show up and they play like round robin. But when you transition into intermediate, there's this competition called AIMS Games. So that's a national competition for intermediate kids, and they compete in all sports. So you've got football, futsal, basketball, netball, all sorts, and that sort of prepares you before high school. So a lot of the schools attend AIMS games, and it's not something I attended because I was at, I guess, a lesser well-off school. We couldn't really afford to attend those competitions, but yeah, nowadays it's common practice. So yeah.
That's fascinating, and no wonder then your national team is doing so well. It's the last 10, 12 years of raising the future generation from the ground up. That's awesome. Hi Shane, can you hear us? You can ask your question now.
Yeah. Well, I know with our school system, we're a little bit behind that of New Zealand. Like you said, it's quite a surprise considering we've probably got a lot more resources. But the basic sort of format that we have in Australia, or at least Sydney anyway, that I know of, has been around since I was a kid, and I know they still run it now, is mainly a regional area competition. So if you're in Sydney, western suburbs, northern beaches, eastern suburbs, etc., you'll play a regional championship. It consists of like a one-day tournament. You win that, and then you go to a state one, and that'll be a one-day sort of tournament. And then they probably have a nationals, I'm presuming. I'm pretty sure they might have one up in Gold Coast or something like that for the schools. So, I mean, the most futsal you could ever get in your school in this country is 3 days, and that's it. That's all you're going to get. So, like it sounds like New Zealand's got a bit more than 3 days. It's actually putting it as a bit more of a priority than something that's more or less just a novelty, I guess. When you're talking about one-day tournaments, it's better than nothing. But it's I don't really see how you're going to get much progression from that. And I'd say leading on from that, in universities, I know New Zealand is extremely strong in the university scene. I don't know how many of you have been to uni games or been around that space, but it's very, very strong in New Zealand, the university futsal. But for us, again, the only futsal I know of in university is uni games, which is more about drinking them than playing futsal. And that's what a weekend. So I mean, if you put all that put together, you're not even getting a week's worth of futsal amongst our education system. So it's definitely something that we're lacking there.
I hear the frustrations that you have there with the school system, and in terms of futsal availability, it should be, given it's quite easy to play, it should be more accessible, particularly throughout the weeks. Yeah, so I've competed in the uni nationals when I was at varsity, and I was fortunate enough to also go to the World Uni Games as well, which is pretty cool, and we can touch on that sort of later. But I guess just to give you the scope of sort of futsal at university level, so we have UTSNZ, tertiary championships. So University Tertiary Sport New Zealand is the organisation. So they're aligned with sort of each member sort of federation. So when it happens in Canterbury, they tap into mainland football and New Zealand football, and they align themselves, connect, and create a competition for university students. So what that usually looks like, I'll talk from a perspective of being at Canterbury University, is in Christchurch on the Sunday, we have men's and women's leagues. So what will happen is we'll make a university team for the whole year, if we're fortunate enough to have the time, and all the guys who are playing university will be in the one team and compete with each other on the Sunday, leading into the tertiary competition, which typically happens sort of mid-year into the season. Yeah, and it's awesome. It's sort of like I think it's just under a week long, and it happens all over. So it can happen Christchurch, Wellington, Auckland, Palmerston North is another place it tends to go to. Not a well-known area in New Zealand, but it's pretty phenomenal for sort of a remote location. And yeah, there's the opportunity to lean into the New Zealand tertiary team, which competes at the Fiji World Games, which is another sort of phenomenal experience. And it's a stepping stone for the national teams and for their selections. So yeah.
Wow. So it's like a whole system, right? You have sort of one level leading into the next, all the way up, and it's year round, right? Is that right?
Yeah. So I guess as we talk about it, it kind of sounds like levels, and like it's pretty cool. There is a pathway for our futsal people in New Zealand. University comp happens once a year, and then the tertiary world games happen, I think it's once every 2 years. Yep. So biannually, which is cool. But yeah, in Canterbury specifically, we try for the men's team. We were lucky to win it a couple of times when I was there. We were trying to keep everyone together in the same team over the period of time, just so they could play with each other. What we do in Canterbury too is we align the University of Canterbury team as a opportunity to come into the Canterbury Men's Futsal Dragons. So it's almost like a breeding ground. So they go from high school straight into uni, and then they have an opportunity to come into the men's national team. National League team in Canterbury. Yeah.
What about coaching? So is it all structured? Everyone, it's the fundamentals. They know what to do, or is it a bit sort of organic?
Yeah. So coach education is ran on the New Zealand Football Loon. So they have like a similar to here, right? You guys have is it AFC or something like that people can do their coaching credentials. And so you can actually go online nowadays and you can do your level 1 and click through and have it all marked. So yeah, I guess it's all just similar to Australia. Yeah, you can do your badges like that, or you can do community workshop. Female only sometimes will happen, usually throughout the year. And yeah, a lot of when you're a new coach, I used to do coaching for for my old high school Shulu boys. It's a good way, to sort of give back, but also to learn how to coach futsal is just with a school team.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. But I guess if you're, let's say, a kid now, and you get introduced to futsal in school, you'd be taught how to do futsal properly. You wouldn't be trying to play 11-a-side at a reduced format. It'll be proper futsal technique and structure and tactics. Is it or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So I guess it's a really good point. Actually, I never thought of it like that. You would. Most people know what futsal is. They know how to control the ball. Even the coaches know that it's sole of the foot. It's not like back in when I was in high school where the coach was someone that was even passionate about futsal, or it was someone who was football sort of oriented. It was part of their portfolio because they're the football coach. Nowadays, you probably get a young person who plays the sport, is ambitious, cares about the value of good technique. We're really lucky in Canterbury. We have a go sessions where mainly football. We'll head along to a school with a couple of coaches or Canterbury players, either women or men's, and sort of teach the kids. This is how you control the ball. Here's some skills. Most instances we give them a ball, and they can keep and they can practice at home. And so there's some really cool sort of organic initiatives that happen in alignment with the men and women's team. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I was just going to ask about the first I heard of the university games was I believe in Israel. I think there was a tournament, and you guys did really well in that. I'm pretty sure that's right. I could have that wrong, but a couple of years back, I think. And I didn't even know there was a university games for futsal. So that was fairly interesting to me. And then little did I know, New Zealand were doing really great in it. And I looked at Australia, we didn't even enter in it. So and we haven't entered in it since. I think because it's not compulsory, which gets down to what we talk about with New Zealand putting effort in, opposed to just ticking a box and which that's all you have to do. If it's a football run sport, you only have to do the bare minimum. Then that's what you'll get. So when I found out it wasn't compulsory, is the reason why we're going in it. But I would see New Zealand in pretty much everything, and then you reap the rewards from that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you're so right. The experience you touched on there, Shane, was I think our game versus Israel in Portugal. Yeah, that was our opening game at that competition. When was that? 2023 now, I think it was. Yeah, a few years back. I guess we use FISU, so the World University Futsal Championships. That is sort of perceived as an opportunity for our men and women national teams to get away and play some games. It's user paid, so yourself as the athlete will pay, or you try to get scholarships to pay to go. We don't get many international games when you're in the national teams. The coaches and the management at New Zealand Futsal look at it as a great opportunity to try to take the teams.
That's awesome. Did you ever face Kazakhstan in any of these university tournaments? Because I think I saw that there was a team from Kazakhstan who might have done, maybe did pretty well at one point, but if I remember that correctly, did you ever see them anywhere?
Oh, I didn't get to face them. They weren't in Portugal, as far as I'm aware. We had Brazil. We played Brazil, Portugal. In Portugal, we played Argentina. We played Israel. So we played Argentina twice. And I think we played someone else, but there wasn't Kazakhstan. That would have been, that would have been phenomenal. That would have been cool.
Yeah. And from Brazil and Argentina, are there any players there who are now playing professionally that you sort of followed?
Yeah, so the whole Brazilian cohort were professionals. It was a phenomenal experience, knowing that, I watched the telly, I watched the YouTube, the LNFS in Spain, the first division. Couple guys play there. Another couple got picked up after that competition because they won it. So that now they play there. So there's about 4 or 5 play Spain. One of them plays in Belgium now, in the Champions League. There were, I don't know if there was, I think there might have been 1 or 2 from Argentina that were playing professionally either in their country or in Spain. Portugal, there's a couple there who play in their leagues in the top division. So being exposed, on the court. We played Brazil in the quarterfinal, and it was I think it was 1-0 at halftime to them, and it's just like I don't know, it's pinch me moment because they're professionals, and this game doesn't mean as much to them as it does to us. Coming from New Zealand, like playing professionals on an unreal court in Portugal. Amazing.
What was it like? Like, what jumped out when you were on the court? Trying to do your thing against those guys. What's the biggest differences?
Yeah, it's the automation of habits on the court. It's second nature. The way they pass the ball, the technique's different. They almost like strike the ball. They don't pass it. They strike it. It zips. They look like they're on a beach at Copacabana. They just flick the ball. They do step over. They do the little Euro step. I don't know. It's just eye-opening how comfortable they are, and they don't think twice. Someone makes a mistake for trying to rainbow flick or go 1v1. It's don't worry about it, bro. I'm covering you. I've got your back. Their coach is professional. Their coach has won trophies in Brazil with professional clubs. It's like, it's just, the way they warm up, it's very relaxed. They're having fun. They're like children. Very eye-opening. When you come from New Zealand, it's like, this game is so serious. Like, it means everything. To just be here, and to verse these guys from, South America, from Europe. It sort of gives you a learned perspective of the game's not that serious, for others as it is for us. Yeah.
Did you feel like you could sort of hold your ground, or was it just too tough?
Yeah. I learned that technically there were players in my team, and myself, we could hold ourselves, but it's when you're being put under pressure at high level, being able to make very important decisions quickly, and execute them is the difference between us and these guys who play professionally day in, day out. Yeah.
Yeah. And then ultimately it's the sum of all those decisions that sort of leads to the result. So if you only get, some of them right and they get most of them right, that's probably how you get the difference.
Absolutely. And any mistake is punishable. The ball's in the back of your net as soon as you turn around, and it's like, wow. You might come to New Zealand and watch our national leagues, and you might see the ball go past the goal 8 times, and the team that had the most chances will lose, or think to the lesser team, and it's like, wow, that doesn't tend to happen internationally, because if there's an opportunity to score, it's in the back of the net.
Yeah, gotcha. Just one last one on this from me, and then I'll unmute.
Excuse me.
What about physically? Did you feel a lot of difference in like how prepared they are versus yourselves physically?
Yeah, I guess I'll speak for myself. I guess my physicality was lesser than what it was now, because it was a learned experience and I was able to improve now. Player to player, and I'm talking across the whole competition, not just Brazil versus New Zealand, but it's definitely noticeable. We're stronger in those games, those moments, those intricate movements, and it's because they're doing it. They're conditioning their body all the time from playing so often. I guess being professional, you have a gym program that sits alongside your futsal. In New Zealand, you have to do all your gym program outside of all your other needs of life, family, friends, study, work. It's different. When you're being paid to do something, then I'm sure your motivation to be strong and be ready is a little bit easier. Having said that, there are a lot of us who know the importance of looking after ourselves and being in the best shape possible to prepare, but that comes at your own cost, not being paid as a pro. Yeah.
I wanted to touch on what you were saying before about the Oceania Club Championship and competing in that in Canterbury. Just with the opposition that you guys play, and obviously it was held in the Pacific Islands, and you're playing this sort of opposition. Obviously, you talked about the professional teams and whatnot from South America and Europe and these sort of things. The Pacific is definitely not in that category. However, they tend to have a real natural ability for sport, even though they're not, as well trained, and the professionalism isn't there. But I know from my own experiences, playing a lot of the Solomon Island boys and stuff like that back in the day, that they're very enthusiastic, and it just seems like they're born to play futsal. With a lot of the attributes and just how much they enjoy the game, really.
Yeah, I definitely tend to agree with you there, Shane. Their physical attributes are, designed to play futsal. It's quite remarkable. Just even when we played against Southern Legions from Vanuatu, Waikato Rapids, the team I was playing for, they were, they flick the ball in the air, and you're thinking, oh man, you can't get to that. And next thing you know, they're upside down performing a bicycle kick, and it looks like they're just, they're on the beach. And we're watching that going far out. Like, we can't do that. I can't do that, get up that high, climb a ladder, like it's nothing. But I think what's really cool about the Pacific nations, and most of them are, of course, developing, is they have a really cool balance between natural attributes and then a desire to win, because day-to-day life is not as easy. So they're very resilient. Opportunities like this to perform on the world stage means everything, not only to themselves, but to their to their families, to their community, and then ultimately their nation. When we played the Solomon Islands in that final, it was about half the crowd just showed up the next day, and they must have been from the Solomons. They just find a way to get there. That club, Matax FC, had a tough season. From what we had learned, was they're like second bottom in their league, yet here they are in the final of Oceania, and there's at least 100 plus of their people here supporting them.
Nice. Maybe just now that we touched on the Champions League, just very curious to sort of hear the inside story, how it was and what happened and how you felt, and just if you could take us there, that'd be really interesting.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So never personally gone to the islands myself. It's always been a dream of mine. I'm Indigenous to New Zealand, so I'm Māori. Māori people originate from the Pacific, which we call Hawaii. It's sort of just our home. So to pair the two of the sport I love and then with the identity was very exciting and grounding for me. So yeah, personally, I was lapping it up. I was loving it. Fiji as a country, people are brilliant. Every street corner is bulla. How are you? Good to see you. Lots of smiles. People are stopping on the side of the road with their cars, waving out the window, welcoming us. So So yeah, everywhere we went, we felt like celebrities, and we're just common folk from New Zealand. Most of the boys hailing from Hamilton, which was pretty cool. Yeah, the games themselves were very competitive. I think my team was more so comfortable because we've got guys who have played in different environments. Overseas, we've had guys who have come through the system similar to me from school, youth nationals, universities to national league, and in and out of the national team. So we're very lucky to have a good depth of futsal skill and knowledge. And so the games, in terms of the results, looked comfortable for us. We were challenged a couple of times, just from the resilience of the island nations. They're like we just talked about. They're very athletic. They live in transition. They love 2v2, 1v1. Every time a team is attacking, you're expecting some sort of skill. Every game we face, we were taking very seriously. No nation is lesser than us. And I guess to take you to the most pinnacle game, and probably one of the most memorable of my career thus far is that final. It was just so loud. They were falling over, slipping on the court. Like every second play, they're getting the mop out. It's a different game when the play is getting disrupted all the time. You have to be mentally astute and focused, just for any moment. There was even it's never happened before. I even placed the ball down to kick it in, and I've slipped over, looks like I've been sniped or banana peel, and they've gone down the other end and almost counted us. But yeah, it was to sum it all up into one word. It was phenomenal experience, and lovely people in Fiji. I'd love to go back.
Did you expect to go this far in the tournament, or what was the minimum target, and how did you guys think about that?
Yeah, so for us, we had a lot of preparation time. So we had our sights set on the gold medal, on the trophy, nothing less. Unfortunately, penalty kicks will determine themselves. But like I said, it's just so phenomenal, the fact that we came back in the last 5 seconds with our fifth man. I just subbed back on, and I played one pass to the other side, to my teammate Davis. He's cut it back along to our target, and he's scored within 3-4 seconds of coming back on the court. All of a sudden, I'm looking at penalty kicks. Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha.
So you're playing with Waikato. How does that come about? As far as obviously you grew up playing at Canterbury. Did they recruit you? Playing out of Mascot, or was it some of the players suggested, hey, let's bring him in, or how did that opportunity come about?
Yeah, so naturally from the national leagues, we often are facing each federation. So Waikato are from Bay of Plenty and Waibop region. So we would often face off with Waikato in the semi-finals because they were the other, one of the other good teams. So naturally we'd be connecting with the coaches there, with the players. I have a lot of friends who play there, who have played there. And to be honest with you, Shane, I always see it's been a goal of mine to go play. So initially, when I heard there wasn't going to be any Kiwi teams attending, I was actually going to go play for Island Nation. And then when I heard Waikato was going, it was a bit of a mutual connection. So I'd been spoken to by the Rapids, but I'd also put my feelers out and said, hey, look, I'm available. I'd love to go. We have a good chance at doing well. And yeah, just I guess it organically kind of sparked from there.
So I know very little about the New Zealand club system as well, and I'm sure a lot of the listeners would be too. And one of the things, like I said, we're trying to do with this podcast is just to share how different countries approach it, and maybe that gives others ideas. How does the club system work? We've spoken universities and schools and all the rest of it, but what's the top level? What does that look like?
Yeah, so if we go to the very top, you have New Zealand football, so the governing body of football and futsal in New Zealand. And then when you drop down to a level below, you have federation level. So each region in New Zealand, from the North Island down to the south, is broken up in different regions. I won't name them all, but for sort of our main centres, you have Auckland, which was initially AFF in our sort of northern region. You have the central North Island, along with Waibop, so Waikato Bay of Plenty region, big catchment area, and then you have the capital, so Wellington, capital football, and then when you come down to Christchurch, you have mainland football and then southern football. So we, I guess, if I was to talk to how it works with clubs, I'll just talk about Christchurch, Canterbury, because they're not the best. We have leagues, like I mentioned, on a Sunday, on a Wednesday. So that's all set by mainland football, based on the guidance of New Zealand football. And so Wednesday leagues are made up of social teams. So there's various divisions, a little bit more casual. You can still have a really good referee. Often our FIFA referee, Chris Sinclair, will referee in those comps. So, not short of an expert there. When we shift to our Sunday league, that's our most competitive league, where we have our senior men, our senior women. We have our youth that will play in a different centre. So how you sort of establish as a club is you're either associated to a football team, and a football club will put a team in. Or what is now happening is futsal providers, third party, are creating themselves and establishing their own club and playing within those leagues. So I guess the next step from that, if we were to look at it from a local club to then, like a national club, it being, Canterbury Dragons and Canterbury Pride as the national clubs, is, the local leagues, they'll, the, men and women, boys and girls will be selected from the club league, and then they'll go into the national league system with the two representative teams, and then play national competition, whether that's national league men and women, or they'll go to youth nationals, which is actually happening this week or next week in New Zealand, just before Christmas. So yeah, that's kind of how it's happening. What we're waiting for is the population to increase before, and this is my own opinion, before it all goes club-based across the country for the National League. So eventually the federations will probably dissipate, and they'll become someone who supports clubs entering these leagues. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Now, from the biggest clubs in the country, are they fully professionalized? Players are. It's basically their job, or is it more like, something you do, but it's not really your primary thing? You have to have a job elsewhere, and you just play because you like it, or something in between. How does it work actually?
Yeah, so futsal in New Zealand's recreational. No one gets paid. The only people really being paid are the ones providing the service. I guess I'm more than happy we can discuss that can of worms. But I guess for professionalism to happen in New Zealand is we need more population and we need commercialization. Yeah, similar to Australia. Yeah.
You go, Shane.
Yeah, you're not going to let me get away with not commenting on that one. Yeah, well, we have in that regard very similar, I suppose, challenges to that of New Zealand. However, most of it's our own doing. We can't use population as an excuse. We can use distance and a national league. That's always going to be a problem for Australia. I mean, you only have to look at the like the A League in football. It's an issue, the travel and the size of the country, and that can't be helped. But as far as making a more professional go of each state or the cities, like you've got 5 million people in Sydney, so there's no excuse for not being able to do something in that space. And we talk about privatizing versus governing body running it. You can see governing bodies in Sydney, and the private version of that in Melbourne. So I think people can see for themselves. There's arguments each way to which one's better. But I think you can see Melbourne's expanded a lot compared to, I will be honest, Sydney. There's no difference to what I'm playing in or what I've seen, and to what I started as a teenager. So that's 30 years, and I haven't seen any improvement whatsoever. And that's not to say it's bad. It just hasn't gone forward in any direction. So obviously Melbourne is more private. And you can see firsthand. I mean, if you go back and watch the footage, even 10 years back, and then you watch it now, like it's a huge jump. And they've received the reward there as well, as far as they've been, which I think was a good manoeuvre, was to subcontract them out. So governing body to subcontract a private company, because there's certain things that they can do and you just can't beat it. So if they do a good job, why not reward it? So, I mean, these are things that New Zealand, I guess, could look at and maybe learn from some of our mistakes or some of our attempts at trying to, make the sport take it to the next level anyway.
Oh, that's really interesting. I guess for us in New Zealand, you may be aware, but you can read about it. The national leagues are now shifting formats. So what initially happened was we would play over 3 to 4 weekends. So you'd have a travel series, a local travel series. So you'd have your most local rival club, and then you would have a home series, and then you'd have a national league travel series where everyone connects and plays each other over a weekend, and that would happen twice, and then you go into a final. So that's 3, 4, 5 weekends. Now it's going to go sort of week about, where you're only playing 1 or 2 games rather than 4 every weekend or second weekend. So I guess it's turning more into like a football National League format, A-League format, which is nice. But again, some of the hurdles that we're facing and that I can foresee is there needs to be more money coming in to pay for the additional flights, and so players can perhaps be paid. I definitely agree with you there, Shane.
So funding, I think it's a bit of a pain point globally. But I think it might be interesting to understand a bit more, for our part of the world. So as it is now, you mentioned that it's not professionalized; it's all sort of recreational. So when you travel to all these national comps, do players then have to sort of contribute, or are there some workarounds that have been discovered?
Great question and great topic. So I guess the easiest way for me to contrast it is if you play for the national team, then things are typically covered because it's within those budgets, high performance sport budget. Now, when you play at community level, so even if that's representative level for Canterbury team, like we do, I do, there's a bit of money you got to cover there. So it is subsidised from the federation, which is amazing. We're really lucky there. When we go away, like I did recently for OFC, that is a bit of half and half. So subsidised, but you also pay as an athlete. I'm really fortunate that I sort of know and am connected into my iwi. So that's a group of people you sort of belong to, tribe, that has money. being Māori, I'm very lucky for that. Otherwise, you're selling raffle tickets, you're fundraising. My nana used to sell raspberry jam, so I could go away on football tours when I was younger. My parents, all of us, would pack up the car and we'd drive down to the local market and we'd try to sell, mum's crystalware, that she used to love and is now turned into dollars, so that I could get on a plane ticket, I can get on a plane ride and play football in England, or So every sort of football household, if your family is not affluent, will have stories very similar to that. The local Bunnings sausage sizzle, the Mitre 10 sausage sizzle. There'll be connections there. People don't have a lot of money to throw at the game and help with playing for people to go.
Wow, that is fascinating. And it's good, just, I guess you got to have all that passion to take all these extra steps. And then when you get on the court, it just matters so much more knowing, because it wasn't just you, it wasn't just your own labor that got you here, but also your family and friends who had to do all these extra activities just so that you can participate. So that probably adds a bit more passion when you're on the court.
Absolutely.
Fighting the Brazilians.
Absolutely. When you can't be asked, or you're tired to track back, then you just think of those things, you think of, mum and dad and everyone at home watching the tally, and man, if I don't track back and stop that ball going across the goal there, maybe we're not selling raspberry jam the next time to get me here, so yeah, definitely.
That's awesome. So I was in Uzbekistan for the World Cup a couple of years ago, and I saw New Zealand there. And what struck me was that it was not just the team; it was also the families that came. It was this community. There weren't many, but they were visible in the arenas. They had the flags, they had the jerseys. At warm up, you could hear them. The stadium announcer would sort of come around and interview them, so everybody knew they were there. And now that you're telling the backstory, it sort of makes sense how, if you're a parent, you're raising a kid and helping them participate in all these activities, so that eventually some of them make it to that level, make it to the World Cup, and then of course they're going to go. That's why all the love and all this, all the emotions, that's where it comes from. What do you know about New Zealand sort of participating in the tournament? I know you mentioned you sort of were in contention to go, but what's the story there, and with yourself and also with the team?
Yes, I know. I'd love to share that story with you. So like I mentioned earlier, through school nationals, when I was a young boy, I was there was a moment when we were playing a game in Wellington and at the tournament, and I was told by my coach, I must mention his name, Tom Davies. He's so influential at futsal in Christchurch, specifically at Shirley Boys High School. He got us going with the senior stuff, and he said to me that the national team coach was watching me back then when I was 14, 15 at the time, and he said, Hemi, and he said in front of all the boys of my team, he said, when you need to sub, you just sub yourself, so he's trying to give me the best opportunity I could have in front of the national team coach, who was then, they were selecting for the under-18s, OFC's championship, which did happen back then. I was a bit too old at the time, but that was sort of the idea. Reason why I bring that example up is I guess now I'm a product of having come through that, and I'm now in the national team, and very grateful and fortunate to be in there. I was selected, I guess, 2021, just after the initial COVID cycle started happening in the wider squad. So I came in, had my first camp. Ever since then, I was on the fringes of getting in, and then 2024 rolled around, and I was more involved because we had the university games, and the wider squad players were being looked at a bit more. But yeah, 2023/24 is very influential in my career and life at the moment, because that was when I had my my debut. So, what are we in now? We're in 2025, aren't we? So 2024, last year. Last year was when I had my debut in Vietnam. So that's actually a pretty quirky story that we can talk about if we'd like. But I'll just cover sort of around the World Cup. So last year, more so towards the start of last year, I shifted myself to Auckland after getting my debut in Vietnam because I had a great experience. We versed Vietnam, Iran, and we versed Morocco. Unfortunately, I missed out because I had a bit of a stomach pain from the food. A lot of us were facing. Finds out. But yeah, so I shifted to Auckland because that's where our national team is sort of based. A lot of my friends reside there. Probably about 80% of the squad come from there. I'm an out-of-region national team player, so things have always been tougher, more barriers, as you can imagine, with funding, with accessibility, with getting to the trainings. So yeah, I decided to make the shift to Auckland, live with two best mates of mine and their family, which I'm very grateful for them having given me that space to chase the World Cup dream. And as high performance tends to go, as you either get selected or you don't. And I guess I wasn't selected. There was talk about me having come in for the pre-camp tour to Thailand, as there were a couple sort of players with asterisk marks due to injury. That didn't happen either, so I thought, okay, I'm going to head into Sydney. And I guess that was my journey with the national team thus far. Unfortunately, I didn't go for any of the tours this year, as I just, for personal reasons, earlier this year. But yeah, I know the national team very well. I know a lot of the players who have come through personally. A lot of my best mates are within the team or in and out. And we're all just common folk sort of people. So when they were attending the World Cup, you may be aware from some of the articles, a lot of the guys just have regular jobs, construction, they own their own businesses, they are teachers, they're coaches, they're university students. So a lot of the time they're taking off from their work was either they were fortunate with extra paid leave, otherwise it was unpaid leave. It was money they're losing out from not working their own business to attend the World Cup. So yeah, a lot of sacrifices, even for our, specifically for our coaches in the national team who are not full time. So yeah, I guess I know a lot sort of to that that awesome basket of our national team. Yeah.
And how was the tournament? How did everybody find it? What did they say during and after?
Yeah.
Or before, during, and after?
Yeah. So I guess avid futsal fan as I am, I was of course following. More so because they were versing, the big nations, Kazakhstan, and who else do we play? Goodness, we versed one of the teams from Africa and Spain. With Spain, so oh man, the boys were ecstatic, to go to a World Cup. Only 14 of them could go, but we're probably a team in a cohort of times two, 28 to 30 guys who have trained week in, week out for the last 5+ years. Some of them preceding that time as our national team coach, Marvin Eakins, who'd been, formerly, previously was captain, most appearance holder, Elias as well, goalkeeper coach. So a lot of threads, a lot of ties. So very momentous for us to attend. My close mates I have within the team who attended, I guess Hamish Gray and Adam Paulson. They're sort of household names in Australia, Kiwi players. They were so excited to play against Spain and Kazakhstan because as a group of us, all three of us actually in the last World Cup watched the opening game together live on the live stream, FaceTime. when Russia played. I can't remember who they played, but yeah, Russia played. So you're knowing that they were going to verse, the professionals like Catala and Lozano against Spain, Adolfo, these guys from Barcelona that we watch on the telly, we admire, we try practice their dribbling style, Oh, yeah, so excited. Same with Kazakhstan, I mentioned to you before, around Douglas Jr., Hagita, the goalie. These are guys that, we just very smitten over watching on the telly and, really try and hone our skills to be like that. Yeah, so I guess to know that, even though I wasn't attending, but to know my best mates and a lot of the boys in the team who are also very close friends and peers were facing them was, I was just ecstatic for them, eh? It was cool. Yeah, really cool.
Yeah, as I was telling you before we jumped on, when I was at the World Cup, I moved hotels, and so I just happened to be in the same hotel as New Zealand for that game with Kazakhstan, because I think New Zealand was in a different city first for the first couple of games, then we moved to Tashkent for that last game. And so a friend and I were coming down the elevator, and then we saw New Zealand in the lobby, both the players and the families and the coaches and everyone getting ready to go to the game. And we were also going to the game, but as spectators. And it's really cool, see them. You can see the focus. They were trying to get ready and, talking game and just preparing mentally.
The pre-game. Yeah, it's that pre-excitement before you jump on the coach to go to the game to verse these superstars, And that almost makes you kind of subsequently a Kiwi fan when you're not supporting Kazakhstan, doesn't it? Because you've had that.
I supported both.
That lived experience, yeah.
I'm connected to both regions now.
Yeah.
But it was a good game. I think the first half, obviously there was a lot of nerves and things like that. And then the second half, maybe just once you sort of pull behind, you're trying to catch up, and then you sort of pull into the mousetrap a little bit. But it was, But just seeing everyone, you see them first in the hallway, and then you come into the arena and you see them inside the arena, and it just feels very different.
You see them as humans first before they're athletes. That's a pretty cool contrast. Yeah.
Yeah. One thing I noticed is, I don't know how it happens in those arenas, but people seem a lot taller from the stands. I don't know why. But, everyone just seems super tall.
It might be just because the setting they're in is sort of hyper focused. I don't know.
Yeah.
I can kind of agree to that. Or they look the opposite. They look smaller than what they do on the TV. I noticed that at the OFC when I had watched the Solomon Islands for many years at the World Cup in the past, and I saw a couple of them. And I thought, oh man, you guys are smaller than what you look on the telly, but they have such big character, don't they? So I suppose it balances out.
Yeah, I'll try it. You got Shane?
Yeah, I was just interested when you said you decided to make the move over to Sydney, and we know you're playing with my old club, Mascot Vipers. Some really good players in that club, and you guys got the result on the weekend too, which would be a relief that you guys wrapped up a top four. You left it to the last week, had me worried, but got there in the end. What do you think are the like moving to Sydney and playing for Vipers? What do you think that will give you an edge to other players in New Zealand? Do you think it'll benefit you, or will it make it harder? Obviously, because it's then, they do televise or stream the games now, which is a massive benefit. But like being maybe away from the programs, but in a different environment, like what are the pros and cons to maybe improving your chance of selection?
Yeah, great point. So for me, obviously coming from Canterbury and always being exposed to the same league setup, Wednesday, Sunday league, you get used to the players, you get used to the format. Over time, it can seep in complacency for your own growth. I've always been someone who wants to challenge themselves. I don't want to feel comfortable. I always want to feel that bit of discomfort that's going to push me. I always knew of the New South Wales Premiership because we've had Kiwi guys, namely Josh Margetts, Braden Lissington, Tom McGowan, come over, and a local Canterbury boy as well, Daniel Burns, who also played national team New Zealand, come over and perform and enjoy the benefits of such a competitive league. In my opinion, I think the Premiership here in Sydney is probably the best in Australia, just in terms of if we're talking summer league, because then the footballers they're not playing football, they're actually exposed, and they're enjoying that competition, and it allows people like myself to not have to travel very far. It's if you take a flight from Christchurch, yes, we have an international airport. It's only about 3 and a bit hours straight across the ditch, and I'm here, and I can learn, I can grow, I'm exposed to different ethnicities, which is amazing because that diversity brings new futsal knowledge. It brings different quirks, it brings a demanding style that we're not accustomed to in New Zealand. People are a lot nicer over home. They don't demand as much in a game. It's way different when you're here. Some of the boys can tell you, but I think my first game, I got into an argument just over a misunderstanding with my new teammates who I hadn't met. It must have been 20 minutes of knowing each other and we're already having an argument, and they're telling me to F off, and it's like, okay, how do you deal with that? We're not used to that in New Zealand, and it's like, not only is that sort of fierce culture great to get used to and to compete in, but it teaches you that, okay, my communication needs to be different. I need to be adaptable. And I guess if we had to touch on advantages for me since, my futsaling game within the last 12 months has improved. Just decision making. You get pressed here a lot. Players are strong. They have that really fierce Aussie culture, or that spirit. I don't know what it is. You guys have like this real fighting spirit, and adjusting to that, learning how to cope in that environment is just so valuable for someone like myself who wants to get better. I don't see, to be honest with you, Shane, I don't see any disadvantage other than the initial feelings of isolation from not hearing, I guess, my own language back, from back home, te reo Māori, chilled English. I guess those are the only really disadvantages. Cost of getting here. We're lucky as Kiwis, we can just walk in and we're PR. They at the gate when I recently came in, they said welcome home. As simple as that. As soon as I scan my passport, I'm in. And I just think with time, and it's already happening in Queensland with our Kiwi players, is it's just going to be more and more. I'm sure there'll be club exchanges before long, and there'll be agreements with sharing players and all sorts. So I love it here. I think if you're based in Sydney, you have other opportunities to go, like in your competition, at Sydney Futsal. You can go down to Victoria, you can go to WA if you want to take a long plane ride. You're exposed, and for me, someone who's ambitious, who's chasing to be a professional one day, because the little boy in me would like to know what it's like just to be paid to play. Not that that's my motivation, but it's just to tick it off and be like, hey, you did it. Part of that for me is I'm closer to Asia. It's another market to get into, something I was exposed to in Vietnam. I learned that, okay, our technical ability is actually not too far off these guys. If anything, it's the same. They're better because they're in that environment day in, day out. For me, Australia, technical abilities is class. I don't know what it is. You guys just seem to be at a younger age really technical, and it must be if it's not the futsal in school, it must be the quality football coaching that kids are exposed to.
Yep. Go on, Shane.
Yeah, I know you were mentioning before like a transfer or trading system. I've been lucky enough to play with some of the boys over here that you've talked about that have come over. I know Tommy McGowan he was a quality player, a bit of a celebrity on the old Instagram as well. But yeah, and Paulson's probably one of the best players that I played with. Actually, I really rate him as a player. Lovely kid, and he was real class. I thought if he sticks at it, he really makes something of himself. So yeah, it was good to see that there's some like the only boy that to come over and give it a shot, and yeah, it's a good path, I think, like for both sides. I think there's a lot of Australian boys, especially some younger guys there, that can get down to New Zealand and test themselves, be away from home. That's a challenge, if you want to make it in futsal, then playing in Australia, you've got to strive for a bit higher than that. So to be away from home is the challenge, off the court, not just as well as getting on there and performing on it. So yeah, that's an interesting a point you make there. With the boys that you're playing with at Mascot, as well as I heard that F off is it's pretty common for us, really. To be fair, there's an F off every game. It wouldn't be normal in Australia if it wasn't an F off. So that's a pretty standard. I get about 10 in a game to people, so that's just myself. Yeah, since you've been at Mascot, what sort of boys that you've been playing with, or playing against in some other teams that have stood out to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, Shane, your Air Force, because you're playing fifth man so often, maybe jokes. Yeah, some of the boys that naturally stand out to me at my club, at Mascot, Ethan DeMello. I mean, phenomenal 1v1 ability, unique style. It's not, you don't often see that in New Zealand, where the fixo, he's traditionally flanker, but he can pull himself into fixo, conduct the play to then go 1v1 and then score a really nice goal or assist. For me, a big player who and probably one of the best I played with, and I don't mind blowing smoke up his ass, that is Daniel Finito. I think he's a top character, top performer, and just so lethal. As soon as he crosses that white line on the court, he's zoned in. Only one thing on his mind, and it's to score and to win. And I'd like to use this opportunity to give him credit for helping my game improve, just by the organic nature of playing with him. Other players, some of the youth boys have been class. I'd definitely mention the Quilligan boys. They're great. Great conductors, very professional as well on the court. Most of the team at Mascot. We've even got a fella from Spain, from Marocco, Ika. So you're exposed to a Spanish player. The other day when we were playing the game against Jurel, Ethan was, bamboozled by Ika's skill, and he said he's very Spanish, his style of play, and that's because he's so direct with his skill. Beats his man, pass, goal. It's not something we're used to in New Zealand. Typically, we'll try and, rotate the ball more, and then, players are not so 1v1 accustomed to just go for it, be direct. It's now transitioning. You would have seen it at OSC, very different style of approach. Other teams in terms of players who stand out for me, I can't go on without mentioning Wade Juvenali. For me, not only is he a cool human, but he's just a great conductor on the court, as a leader. He's also someone who, when I attended youth nationals, back when I was in the development team for Canterbury under 14s, he was there playing Traz Tasman, making his debut against New Zealand. So we speak fondly of those memories of when I first saw him play. So I have great admiration for Wade. A player I like to watch as well is Guerrero from Magic. He's a top professional. Most of those national team boys are very good. Noah Falich in goal. He's tough to score against. So there's a number of them. And some of them I can't think of their names. Like Mount of Magic had, I think it was Mount of Magic, had a couple Brazilians who I quite enjoyed. Had some cool, really cool style with their 1v1, when they drag the ball, stop, and then step over and then cut inside. I love Brazilian style. I'm very accustomed to the South Americans and Brazilians back home. I'd often surround myself with them when we would play against the Arab boys. So there's such a cool supportive community in Canterbury. A lot of the ethnicities and the boys will connect. We'll play, hire a small court, and just play. Winner stays on, and then either that evening we'll go have Brazilian barbecue, or we'll connect at a later date and do the same, and we'll play football. And so I love Brazilian style. It's amazing. Yeah.
The next area I wanted to just cover with yourself is the women's game, because I know that New Zealand is quite strong in the women's futsal sort of side of things too, and the World Cup, which just finished up in the Philippines, New Zealand was there. So just curious to know what's the secret behind that success, and how does it all work there, and who do you know from there, and what do they tell you?
Yeah, cool. I guess fortunately being from New Zealand, as everyone knows one another, or otherwise we were within 2 degrees of knowing that person. So with the women, I know quite a few of them. Particularly, I think we have 3, 4, maybe 5 players from Canterbury who were within the national team. We had Hannah Hegarty, who was the goalkeeper for New Zealand. Unfortunately, she had to leave the World Cup due to health. Then came in the substitute, all the way from New Zealand. She had to catch the plane, Kenzie Falco. Funny because she comes from Canterbury as well, and they both train together. And they have a lot of admiration for one another. There we have Sophie Williams, Eleanor Firth, we have Brittany Lee Nicholson. We have quite a few, even ex-players that are now based in Melbourne. Sophie Williams from Canterbury. Yeah, you know them all, I guess. We're always together in the same camps, men and women, same time. The secret to women's futsal across New Zealand is just similar to the men now, is long-term investment. Similar pathways from young. So, like I mentioned, you go from local competitions in your federation on a weekend. Even though the women were less scaled, so less teams, maybe 4, maybe 3, maybe only 2 teams, they're still playing. This is in my region in Canterbury. And then, you got youth nationals for the girls, and then you got school nationals for the girls, where they would typically go the week before the men or the boys for school nationals. Youth nationals is always ran at the same time, so the boys and the girls always all there. Same opportunities with the university, and then same with the national team. Obviously, the Women's World Cup has only just been created. Wrongly so. Unfortunately, FIFA should have done that a lot sooner. I'm sure we can all agree. But yeah, it was remarkable. I followed the games. I watched them all, of course. Watching the girls, watching our women play, because starting out as a young girl in New Zealand, there was no FIFA Futsal World Cup. So I don't know if, because I'm not a female myself, and I don't have that lived experience, but I'm sure it was only a dream that one day there would be a World Cup, and then all of a sudden, now a whole lot of them were playing in it. 14 of them probably could have never have imagined. So just so happy, and to have seen that.
How did they find it? I know it just finished just recently, but what's the intel?
Excuse me. Hang on.
Find it out. Okay.
Yeah, I guess in terms of their lived experience, I haven't spoken to any of them directly, but from following, I guess, the interviews, and from what their captain, Hannah Krautman was sharing in the last game, was that, it was quite surreal. and a dream to sort of, represent Aotearoa New Zealand on the world stage. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be quite a unique opportunity. And like I said, when we sort of don't have it on the horizon growing up, and then all of a sudden you can do it. So
That's
I
right.
guess anyone really is in this first one, just by the fact that it is the first one, is by definition a historic event. So being a part of it, I think, is pretty cool.
Yeah, look, I actually had the pleasure of coaching when I was at UTS, the women's team there. They had a lot of really good players. Daisy plays in the national setup at the moment, actually, from there, and she would have only been a young girl at the time, and there was no national team being talked about. This would have been about 10 years ago or so. So, and I know a lot of girls played hoping that they were going to play in a World Cup, or that opportunity would be there, and a lot of them didn't get that opportunity. So I think a lot of the girls there were playing not just for themselves, but for a lot of the girls that were older than them that set a platform and never got that opportunity. So I think that Hemi's right when he said you should have done that a long time ago. They've missed the mark by about 2 decades at least. So it's made the sport a lot harder for the women's side of things to push people to be. We talk about professionalism and setting standards and all that, but you have to have a dream or something to achieve at the end of it. And without that, like, the women have done really well to just keep playing or keep the sport ticking over, essentially, without that end goal, really. And it's like, we didn't even have a national team, because what was the point of having one if we got no? You can go and play a tournament, but essentially you're playing tournaments to prepare for a World Cup, aren't you? So for a long time, I think that it was just, you're just biding time and just hoping and waiting for this to come to fruition, and it's finally here. So I'm just very happy for the girls in general, that they get that same opportunity. They put the effort in like everyone else. So and hopefully that this Women's World Cup, being a success that it was, and the men's World Cups have been successful for some time, that this will lead to a discussion of the Olympics. Because if we want to get true investment and showcase our sport, we have to understand that futsal is a second-tier sport. And not only because football run it, which makes it second tier anyway, but it can't, you can't have 100,000 people watching a game of futsal like you can football in a stand in a stadium. We're not going to have, like the viewership off the bat that the other sports have. But it is a great sport that can go a long way if given opportunity. So I think if we want to get that investment, and you only have to see a lot of sports when they get put in the Olympics, the investment that initially comes from that. So even Hemi was talking about being paid. They have, you got a company, you got to take that time off to go to play in a World Cup. Well, if you're in the Olympics, there's all sorts of programs where the government will step in for you. So even in that regard, people wouldn't have to be as as stressed out and pushed financially into wanting to take the sport further. So I think that the Women's World Cup is super important for our sport because it now showcases, a real opportunity to take it on and as an Olympic sport. I think without having the Women's World Cup there, you'd really question whether the Olympics should be taking it on until the sport could sort of get its, own order or whatnot before that they take it on. So hopefully this is a step forward. That's what I'm hoping for this from this whole experience, that it's not just a World Cup that we get from it. It's an Olympic sport. I think it'd be a huge step for the sport. Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Shane. It's and as you know, like when you're an Olympic sport, all of a sudden you open the bracket of high performance funding, and then the government all of a sudden can start funding your sport. And in New Zealand, if you're a high performance sport, you're really important because our high performance sports tend to do really well per capita at the Olympics. They either medal or they get very close. So I couldn't imagine, well, I kind of can imagine what that kind of money could look like for futsal. And yeah, it's a no-brainer why futsal isn't in the Olympics. I mean, they could do it in a velodrome like they do in Manchester futsal. You have the velodrome going around, and then in between the cycling races, they could play futsal games. So, yeah, I don't understand.
Yeah, makes sense. Just the last then sort of set of questions I was hoping to cover with yourself is there's obviously the 11-a-side sort of classical football side of things, and there's the futsal, and a lot of players play both. Well, a lot of 11-a-side players don't actually know that much about futsal, and they think it's just same techniques. Maybe the rules are a little bit different, but it's basically the same game with fewer people and less space. But that's obviously not true. So, but I think one thing everybody who's in the sport of futsal wants is for more players to discover it. What are your reflections on having tried both? Does futsal help with soccer if you want to do both? And also, as a beginner futsal player, what should you work on? What are the tips and tricks? How did you sort of work on your own skills? I know you're a very skillful player. I watched those games, and you can really lead and take people on and score beautiful goals. So, what's your personal advice, and maybe share some little secrets with people, especially kids if they're watching? What would you say to them?
Yeah, so to answer your first question, I'd say it's unequivocal that futsal improves your football, and also vice versa. So I've experienced both. Futsal improving my football for sure, especially in the tight spaces, but also football improving futsal. I don't know, it just kind of just does, with extra touches and, in addition to your futsal. If you're a football player trying to improve your skills, then, futsal is a no-brainer. What is interesting is I was actually listening to the podcast series Futsal in Victoria with Miles Downey, and their co-host commentated there. And Miles mentions that in Florentino in Italy, the football club is now taking an approach that futsal methodology is better because everything is broken up into sort of magnified perspective. So, looking at first touch, pass, body shape, your reading, perception of defender. So I've started thinking now, in reflection of my career playing football and futsal, that if you're trying to improve your football skills, then maybe you should just magnify on the area that you want to improve on and then go watch futsal and see it, okay, why does this player do this action and XYZ, and I'm sure with time you will improve. If I was speaking to a novice futsal player or someone new or a kid like my niece, she's 5 years old now, so left-footed futsal player in the future, hopefully. I would say, you don't have to look far to improve your fundamentals. Go get your ball. It could be a futsal ball, it could be a tennis ball, it could be a football, one of those $2 balls from the $2 shop, and find a wall and just kick the ball against the wall. I'm sure what you'll find is you'll control the ball with the sole of your foot naturally because it will bounce and the side of your foot. And I mean, that's how I started. I started kicking the ball against the deck. And then over time, the nails coming out, of the deck, of the fence, of the planter box. You don't have to invest in much. You just have to invest in the time and the quality of your practice and the purpose. Fundamentals was always what I was taught. I was fortunate enough to come through the teachings of Winton Rufer and Ricky Herbert. Winton Rufer is obviously an all-white football legend. He always taught us that, you focus on the fundamentals, which was juggling, ball skills, 1v1, passing, and then game. You don't have to look far. After that, everyone's got a smartphone. You can pull up Ronaldinho clips, Ronaldo clips, even though they're football players, not futsal players. I mean, if you want to look at futsal player, then pull up Diego, Barcelona. There's Claminho on YouTube, has all the players clipped for 10, 12 minutes. Alex Merlim, another phenomenal futsal player with the skills. Pito, it's endless. So yeah, fundamentals is the key. Even myself at 26, I still need to top them up. I see it as like a phone battery. I lose a bit of my battery. I need to go find myself a wall, some cones, juggle the ball. And I think what the kid or this person might find is, with time, you lose the love, and then to get the love back, you just go back to the ball in your hand and juggling at the park or at a wall. So it's good balance, not only for skill but for your well-being and overall enjoyment.
It's almost like I was trying to learn surfing a few years ago. The coach told me it's all about time in the water. I can teach you like the theory, but you got to spend hours in the water. So it's the same as just time in the ball.
Comfortability, with the water, unknown. Yeah, that's cool.
There you go.
Yeah, it would just probably be my last question. Just touching on the point of running competitions and making competitions. We were lucky enough to have you down at Heffron playing with Mosaic along with Taylor. That was quite a good experience to have you down there, not just for the competition, but for a lot of younger guys that Taylor had in the team. The guys were struggling a little bit without a bit of leadership, and automatically got improved results the minute you came down. How did you find the competition? As far as like it's not obviously the Premier League, it's a community competition. But we're trying to obviously fill the gap between being social and playing representative, and just giving the players a platform where they can be looked at to go further into that next level, rather than just playing with their mates, on a weeknight, which really nobody's really going to be down there looking at you. And I suppose as well, from like a coaching point of view, I'll give him a little bit of a plug here, but Taylor's got his own academy there that's futsal orientated. I know you played with the boys. Is there any chance that you might be doing some coaching with those young lads?
For sure. Yeah, Taylor and I, he's a very close friend of mine. I almost perceive him as my best mate here in Sydney. We're often talking about sort of his ambitions and future goals for the young ones. And part of that will be, sort of helping out, giving a bit of coaching. Hopefully next year, where we have the time and when needed. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but I guess to answer the part of the first part of your question, Shane, I'd just say like credit to yourself and also you as well, Timor, who's you guys are really important futsal community people, and I think globally and particularly in New Zealand, as people like yourselves is what makes the sport tick. It's not the glitter and glam of these national competitions. It's actually the really good community programs. And one thing that stood out to me first initially coming down, Shane, was the professionalism of your league. Everyone has their own kit. They have numbers, sometimes names. Timor, you're taking photos. I mean, it's very professional. I played in a lot of leagues across New Zealand and specifically Christchurch. And sometimes we don't even take photos for our national league stuff. So there you go. I thought it was remarkable. I enjoyed it. The quality is great. And I definitely think you're knocking the nail on the head with filling that gap. Especially for myself, I was struggling with minutes. at Mascot last year, and I would have really valued from this competition to just supplement me and my enjoyment to play, rather than relying on training, which was twice a week or sometimes doesn't happen because of availability, and also just my enjoyment. It keeps me happy, tops me up, and the league's competitive. Guys want to be there; they don't want to be, to put it frank, dicks. Everyone's there for the same reason, for the enjoyment of the game.
I think we're probably at time to finish, but really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much for making the time. Hopefully this conversation helps someone to learn about the sport or reconnect with it or become curious and sort of want to learn more. So the more we keep talking about it and share stories and sort of show the human side of futsal in the region, I think the better. Because more people will then hopefully convert from curiosity to actually giving it a go and then play and get better. So that's kind of the hope behind this whole project. So really appreciate your time, and thank you. We'll see you on the court somewhere.
Anytime, and just a toe talk or just a support is the English word for that one, for what you guys do. Thank you for having me on, and it's been a pleasure.
Appreciate it. Thank you.